kids that they serve. Let's dive in first to this math course. So I'm going to jump into this 3rd grade math course. And the first thing I want to do as this course opens up, you'll notice we have a very nice page here. We always, in our curriculum, we wanted to make sure that we land somewhere that has some good aesthetics, that is welcoming. You'll see that in addition to this banner, we have our 9 weeks of curriculum here that's all hot linked. And I'll get to that in a minute. But before I get to actually jumping into one of these weeks, I want to show you the structure of the class that Krista talked about. So on the left side of your screen here, I'm going to go into the module view. And what the module view is going to show me is essentially the outline for the course. So Krista talked about this common design for each discipline that we used. So I just wanted to demonstrate that in math. So what you'll see is the same layout every single week for our math class. So the first thing you're going to see in Canvas, again, if you're new guys, modules are these gray bars across the top. I like to think of modules like file folders or buckets, just a place to organize your stuff. First, there's going to be an overview for the week that's going to kind of just summarize what the kids are going to learn. Then you'll see we have a unit for each day of the week. So here's Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and of course, Friday. The structure for Monday through Thursday in math is exactly the same. You'll notice it's going to start here on Monday. It's going to start with a Notice and Wonder activity. Then they're going to get into that direct instruction. In this case, it's Khan Academy, and we used a lot of Khan Academy. We stayed away in our design guides from any specific textbook because of copyright issues between our district. Because we're pushing this out, to anybody in Kern County and beyond, we wanted to ensure that we weren't violating copyright anywhere. So after the instruction, there's going to be some kind of a practice that, while it's set up as a quiz, it does not link to the gradebook, so it really is just practice for the sake of practice for our kiddos. And then finally, there'll be a choice board. So we really implemented Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, and giving kids choice in the activity. And in math, every week they created 9 options on the choice board, and the kids choose 1 option every day to complete. So Monday through Thursday, they're going to have this Notice and Wonder, some instruction, some practice, and then they'll go to the choice board. You'll notice here Tuesday, same thing, Notice and Wonder, some different instruction, all around the same standard, some different practice, and another choice board. Wednesday and Thursday are exactly the same. So Monday through Thursday are kind of this input, if you will, of content and practice and choice board. And then Friday, every Friday, the end of the week, they open with a Notice and Wonder. Then they take a quiz that's on that unit from the week, or content from that week. Then they have a reflection, and I love this piece, guys. When we think about what we're missing in class in terms of building our kids up and those collaborative relationships and those critical bonds we have with kids, these reflections are not just tell me about your week in math. These reflections are tell me about the challenges you had this week as a mathematician. Tell me about what you're really good at as a mathematician. And they start to get that academic language into the kid's head about, no, it's not that you're doing math, it's that you're a mathematician. It's really, really powerful stuff. So you'll notice, guys, week 2, I won't go through every week, but just to show the consistency, same exact thing. Overview, Monday through Thursday is going to have this same structure of Notice and Wonder, some kind of content, a practice, and then a choice board. And then Friday is going to be the quiz for that week. So they use that for every single week, K-12 in all of the math classes. So I'm going to go back to home here for a moment, guys, in this course. And now what I'd like to do is show you what a week 1 content looks like from the teacher view. And then I'm going to shift and take a look at the student view so you can see what the kids will see. So you'll be able to actually see the choice board and really see what kids see exactly. So let's click on week 1 right here. And as that's coming up, I did forget to mention, I'm sorry, friends, if you have any questions as we're going along, Krista is watching the chat. Please feel free to drop any questions you may have or comments in the chat. And also at the end of my time, I'm going to link the YouTube channel that Krista talked about, as well as some other resources that we have. If you'd like to have a deeper dive into this curriculum, we're happy to arrange that. So from the teacher view, guys, the first thing you'll notice where we land here is I have my week 1 overview, and I've got my directions and kind of summary of the week. But notice we've also included a video here. Again, thinking of UDL, we embedded this video.
Hi, friends. Welcome to an overview.
And this is, I won't play the whole thing, but this video essentially reads the information on the page to the students. So this is one of our teachers, Candy Huizar, who is one of our design team leaders. And she narrates these videos that teachers can re-record in their own voice if they want. But again, thinking of access and making sure that kids have access to the content, even if they're struggling with a low literacy level, or maybe they're a student with disability, or maybe they're new to the country and they're still acquiring the language of English. We wanted to make sure that we were reading that to them, because oftentimes how students can hear and understand language is different than how they can read it. So then there's a summary video, or pardon me, kind of a welcome video for the week. And then you'll notice at the bottom, our kids can then choose after the overview, hey, what day is it? What content am I completing? So I'm going to click on day one, or pardon me, Monday. And you'll see here when we land on Monday, friends, here's our notice and wonder that comes up. And again, this is the teacher view, so I'll show you the student view in just a moment. What do you notice? What do you wonder? And these are all visual examples that are based on the standards that they're studying for the week. You'll see we have a simple rubric here that, again, I'll show you on the other side of things. I'm going to click on next, and you'll notice now we're going to get into our instruction for the week. So again, everything is embedded in Canvas. So instead of sending the kids out to Khan Academy or out to YouTube, we embed the video in Canvas so they have a one login, one click experience all under the umbrella of Canvas. And we know they're watching the right video, and we know they're not playing on the playlist and jumping to other things. So they can watch their video here. I'm going to click on next, and you'll see the next thing that's going to come up is their practice. And you can preview that here. I'm actually going to save the preview for when I click over to the student side of things. So let's put a pin in that one as we click on next. And you'll notice next now it will go to the actual choice board that the students have access to. So I'm just going to scroll through my choice board here briefly, guys. You'll see that as the choice board loads, there are 9 different examples or sample activities that the kids can choose from. And they literally pick one per day and submit it. And the way Canvas works, because we've set this up as a choice board, the 4 assignments for the week all are actually in one column in the gradebook as one ongoing assignment. So it's really clean for teachers in terms of grading and monitoring the grade as well. And then once I get done with my Monday activity, you'll see I click next and it brings up Tuesday. I'm not going to walk through Tuesday again because I know you're probably wanting to see what does this look like from the student view. So I'm going to open up a new tab here real quick, friends, and I'm just going to quickly click on the student view for the exact same unit that we just walked through. So this is week 1, Monday. And as student view opens, you'll notice I have this pink tab across the bottom that tells me that I am in student view. You'll see the kids have a different view and a little bit less options over here. They have just menu options that affect them as students. I'll click on week 1. And now you'll see this finished product for the students where here's where they're landing with their overview video. Once the overview opens up and the videos load, I'll be able to click here at the bottom, and here's my videos that are just now coming in, guys. You know what, guys, I'm going to cut my video feed because my internet seems to be a little bit slow. So I'll turn that off so hopefully we can expedite things over here. And I'll click on the Monday unit for our kiddos. And you'll see here is their notice and wonder. And if they want to submit it, they can just click up here in the top right on the submit assignment button. And I'll demo that in just a moment when I get to the choice board. I'll click on next, and now their instruction is going to come up. So here's that Khan Academy embedded video like we talked about. They don't go out to Khan Academy. They stay right here. We're going to click on next, and now we're going to get to the actual choice board. Or pardon me, this is the practice quiz. So if I click on take the quiz, it's going to actually take me to the quiz here where I've got some questions and I can submit my answers. There's actually 4 questions in this particular quiz. And I'll just quickly click through these so we can see what that looks like at the end, because these quizzes actually show students correct answers here at the end. So I'm going to click submit quiz, and my student view, you'll see now it's going to show me what I got correct. It'll show me, kind of give me some immediate feedback there. And then from there, I actually go to the choice board. I do want to show quickly once the choice board opens up that because we're, again, thinking about universal design for learning, when kids select a choice board activity to complete, there is, when they click on submit assignment, the tool that opens up is called the rich content editor. And if you've not used this yet, you'll notice that students can upload a file here. So if they're working in Google or Docs, they can grab their file. They can also do a text entry, and this is our rich content editor. And please notice that from the rich content editor, they can also insert their own media. They can also record their own media. So If a student, instead of typing the response, wants to give a verbal response, they can turn the media on here, click on start recording, and record that answer. So it really gives options, guys, for us to be able to have synchronous learning and asynchronous conversations back and forth with your kiddos about the learning and about the content, and allows us to support academic conversations even though we're not in the same room anymore. I want to just show briefly in terms of equity and access. One of the things that sold us on Canvas was the ability to translate and give access to content, even despite levels of understanding of English or literacy levels. That tool is called Immersive Reader. And you'll notice that I'm on a new tab here and I just have a page open. When I click on Immersive Reader, all the graphics go away, and I have all kinds of options here in the top right corner to adjust the text size larger or smaller, space it out, change the contrast if I have a visual impairment. I have grammar options here where I can highlight certain kinds of words. I also can limit line focus, and I can also have the page translated. So if let's say I have a student who speaks Spanish, and this particular student is from Spain, I can choose Spanish and specifically the dialect from Spain, as opposed to Mexico or opposed to Latin America. So I won't actually do that now, but you can also then at the bottom here, guys, you can actually play the page for the student as well. The last thing before I hand things back to my friend Krista is I just want to show you the other support that we've created briefly. The KCSOS Teacher Onboarding course, which we're happy to share. What we did here, guys, is create, first of all, a couple of beginner videos just to help demystify the platform. And I have links to these that I'll put in the chat here in just a moment. But then we've also curated some very simple 1 to 3 minute help videos to keep our teachers in the work and allow them to continue to get quick answers to questions about content. And then we've also linked down here, Krista talked about the recordings that we have for asynchronous or retraining. We have all of our Canvas trainings down here that have been linked, as well as our ongoing trainings on our Google apps and as other EdTech apps as well. So just trying to make sure that all of our staff have as much support as possible as we transition into distance learning, and that they can stay in the work, which of course is meeting the needs of their students and customizing that curriculum so they can support high-level distance learning. So with that, if there's any questions, Krista, I'd be happy to jump into the chat, but otherwise I'll pass things back to you to wrap up, my friend.
Well, with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to my friend over here from San Bernardino County, Jennifer, so she can take it on, but we'll throw our information in the chat in case you have questions. So Jennifer, it is all yours.
Great, thank you. We appreciate our colleagues from Kern really walking us through an example of some distance learning resources that are available to help bridge that gap. We know as our schools exited the traditional building and went home for distance learning that like they shared, it was a big challenge. And so in San Bernardino County, we faced that challenge as well. So we were pleased to be a part of the consortium model with CCEE and really looking at how can we support our educators during this time as they're making these transitions and trying to maintain quality best first instruction for students. So the role that San Bernardino County played in that model was different than the other COEs. So we appreciate San Diego County and Orange and Kern and Shasta really coming in at that level of the classroom and making sure that our teachers had all the resources they need to support instruction in those classrooms. San Bernardino County really took the role of supporting the teachers. And so we knew as we were pushing resources out, we were hearing you teachers loud and clear. And those analogies of drinking like a fire hose, everything coming through the line, resources and strategies, that we needed to give you a framework to support everything you were receiving. So San Bernardino County's role was really to provide professional development and access for teachers to continue to learn and grow in a distance learning environment, just like we would for students. So we began our journey in developing professional development courses that are, again, accessible to everyone, really focusing on early learning. So we knew as we were exiting students from the building, like Krista said, being a parent of a young child and trying to maintain that environment is very different than myself, for example, as a parent of teenagers and maintaining their instruction. So we sent out professional development resources first. You can see our 6 courses on the screen, out to our most vulnerable populations that were being exited, and that was early learning. They do not have the proficiency to maintain their own level of instruction, And we knew that we needed to give teachers a tool to remind them of the essentials, the foundations of instruction. So as they're trying to do all things to maintain instruction, they really had a lens, not only for themselves as a teacher, but perhaps as a paraprofessional, perhaps even as a parent trying to bridge that instructional gap at home, to remind them that it's okay not to do all things during this period of transition. Here are the most essential things. So we built the first 4 courses in that MTSS framework. We wanted to remind teachers and parents that we need to foster the whole child approach. So we put out some professional development courses in reading and numeracy to remind them that this is the focus right now, but then we also built in behavioral support and social emotional learning as well. Once we had the 4 foundational courses built, then we backed those up. As our colleagues said, we were starting to see some long-term transitions at this point, and we knew that we needed to not only support our teachers that were trying to reach out to students, but our parents who were now joining them on the front lines of distance learning. So we took those early childhood courses and we back mapped them into at-home learning for distance learning for parents, and really showed them this is what an exemplar looks like. This is best first instruction for our kiddos. And these are some strategies that can not only be carried out in the transitional environment that some of our districts were still maintaining, or a hybrid environment as they were anticipating, but now a full distance learning environment. So you can see the link there to access our courses, and I'm going to take you on a little bit of a deep dive into one of them. So next screen, please, Krista. Thank you. So this is an example of our social emotional learning course, and you'll see in that course that every course is going to begin with an introduction and overview. We wanted to give that framing of foundational learning to our teachers, our parents, our paraprofessionals, whoever might be accessing it. And then those courses are broken down into modules. And again, in the spirit of transparency and accessibility, we wanted to make those as coherent and concise as we could for our educators. So they follow a why, what, and how format. Why is this level of instruction important? What are the most essential things that students need to know in this phase of learning? And how can we get them to continue to thrive in their learning, whether they are in a traditional environment, a hybrid environment, or they have done a full exit to a distance learning environment. So the strategies that are in that how section are transferable. They're high leverage practice, they're evidence-based practices that are also developmentally appropriate. We wanted to give parents and educators some tools, and you can see some examples of how we tried to foster authentic engagement and model for our teachers ways to really foster connectedness, best first instruction, universal access for students, but still in a developmentally appropriate way that didn't have students just plugged into computers and really, moving independently throughout their day. We wanted to maintain that idea of best first instruction, even in professional learning. So we modeled those practices and shared those resources accordingly in our modules. So next slide. So that's where we've been in our work, and those are accessible again to everyone, and we really hope that as our educators continue to do everything that we know you're doing to maintain those efforts in distance learning, that lens that's provided is really a filter and helps you to remember the basics, the essentials as we work to really build that proficiency gap for our young early childhood learners. But now as we look forward into the horizon, we know that there's a need to support all of our students in the pre-K-12 continuum. And so our next steps is to really take that lens of distance learning and marry that together with universal design for learning. And we know that by bringing together the two, our ultimate goal is to ensure access to best first instruction, equity for all students, and a continuous model of improvement that can support from professional development, but really continue to drive those student outcomes that we know are going to be on the horizon as we hopefully return to school next year. And so we needed to make sure that as our students return to their learning environments, again, that our teachers are still thriving in their own professional learning environments as well. So that as they are accessing resources in the consortium with our other COEs, that it's not returning us back to some of those phrases we've heard like script teaching and strategic spray and pray and resource allocation, that we wanted to give them a lens to say, here is my tool, but how do I embed that tool into what I know as a teacher, what I know about my students, and maintaining that best first instruction, that universal access. So what's coming next is 2 modules for UDL. The first one, Foundations, is almost done, so we hope to have that released very soon. What you're going to see in that one, again, is a very accessible PD model for teachers that, again, follows the why, what, and how of UDL. So that we can really look at that. And this one you're going to see is going to stretch the entire pre-K-12 continuum as we look at the essentials of learning in a multidisciplinary approach. So those essential guiding principles from CAST that we know is our grounding anchor for universal instruction, that can be applied in any content area and in any grade level area, again, to give teachers a filter for what am I trying to accomplish, what are my learning goals for my students, what are the barriers that I anticipate in the new environment as we look at distance learning, and what can I as a teacher do intentionally, strategically, and most importantly, in a way that's manageable, not only for the educator, but for the student and the parent as well, to address those barriers so that students can reach the learning goals that are in front of them. So they're going to get that as they engage in that Foundations course. And again, you can see that what we have done is we've paired together with the guidance documents from California Department of Education to give them a lens for distance learning. There are so many strategies and resources and approaches. And we really grabbed 5 as a key anchor to say, teachers, as we're looking at accessible learning for students, let's consider connectedness. Let's consider learning goals. Let's consider progress monitoring and authentic engagement. Those key cornerstones so that teachers feel like they have a point of entry that's accessible, that's manageable, that's doable, and most certainly is not overwhelming. We really want to foster a sense of self-care for our educators as we bring them into this new shift in a way that's intentional, but also helps and meets teachers where they're at, just like we're asking teachers to meet students where they're at in this transition. So the next module that you'll see coming shortly after that, and so I'll click you over, Krista, if that's okay, is our Universal Design for Learning lesson design module. And so this one is going to take a deeper dive for our educators as we return next year to the new school environment, which we know that many of our teachers don't know what that looks like yet, but it most certainly is still going to consider some essential pieces of distance learning, that we're giving our educators a tool that they can now look at student outcomes strategically through the lens of differentiation, to continue to address students in a long-term way as they engage in instruction. So the lesson design module will now give them tools to say, okay, as we look at learning goals universally for all students, and I've ensured quality instruction using all the tools and resources that are out there for my class as a whole, how can I now dive a little bit deeper and look at some of my student level outcomes and say, what about English language learners? What about students that have behavior problems that are not engaging in my traditional environment, and now most certainly are not engaging in my virtual environment either? How can we look at some of those student outcomes and look at UDL and give our teachers a professional development resource to bridge the gap between learning goals, student outcomes, and the distance learning principles that help bridge the gap in their new pedagogy model? So again, this is something that's cross-curricular. It spans that pre-K-12 continuum for all teachers, but it's not a script. It's just a professional development guide that will bring them in, give them the tools they need to go back to their district tools, their school site resources, and say, okay, now that I have my toolkit, let me take the tools that I have and put them intentionally in my toolkit to serve students in the best way possible. So that's a little bit about where we are with San Bernardino County and our contributions to the consortium. And again, so hoping that we can give teachers in all of our COEs as they're accessing those student resources, just a lens and a professional development guide and anchor for how does that fit into professional development and best first instruction. So with that, if we transition to the next slide, we have just a few more minutes, and we do want to extend a very gracious thank you to everyone for joining us on the call today and your commitment to being here. and really supporting the efforts that are happening across the state in distance learning. This is our opportunity to really stretch our thinking and the work that we're all doing as we work to support our students and our families, our schools and staffs in this next journey together. So we're going to leave you with a final thought and a few minutes. If you'd like to join us in a chat conversation, we certainly welcome that. As we remind you at the end, please make sure to take the survey. We'd love to hear your feedback. But as you're also taking that survey, and I think you're going to have the link in the chat box, we want to invite you to chime in and let us know your thoughts, as we recognize that this is a time of crisis, and we hope to really come out of that time from reacting to the crisis to responding. And we know what's coming next is the opportunity to restore our schools, to restore our classrooms, and to restore what could be a new model of instruction moving forward, and an opportunity to look at things in a different way. So with that, I'm going to give it back to Chelsea to give us our final words, and thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer and Krista, and also to Chris. You guys are just awesome in presenting and sharing what you've worked with your colleagues, and not just within the counties. This endeavor has spanned over our 4 counties within the state of California. So I applaud our counties to come together. And for the audience, please know that we've been meeting every other week to thoughtfully collaborate with each other, to figure out what are like the basic things that we're agreeing to when we're building this content. And the first thing that we definitely agreed upon when we came together was that this was going to be free to every school, county, charter, to everyone, not only within California, but who can access the internet. So I applaud the effort of our county offices in helping to build capacity in all of us. So thank you for taking this moment of making this into a true opportunity for growth. And thank you for joining us.